is a regularly scheduled meeting of the GovOps Committee, around, is Carolyn up there? It's not visible.
She may come in on
Okay.
Zoom.
All right, so present, we have, committee members, Paz, Kimball, and myself. Councilor Yakabaga is absent. Councilor. Pardon? Councilor Fish will probably be joining us, but we rearranged the schedule a bit. We also have, council members, Dean Pelletier, Fournier, and Leonard, and, Tracy Willett will get us started with the Hope Memorial discussion.
Thank you. Good evening. For the past few years, there's been an event organized on the waterfront. It's a ceremony to commemorate the events of September 11, 2001. That event's been organized by the Bangor High School JROTC program. We've been approached by some individuals who would like to create a permanent memorial near this space. And they're here to discuss that with you this evening. So rather than continue and try and describe it, let them do so. I'm going to be joined by Daryl Lyon. Daryl is the advisor to the RC program, is also president of the Maine Infantry Foundation, which would be the group that would be organizing this. And they're at a point where they'd like to share their thoughts and concept with you this evening and get some feedback from the committee. So I will defer the table to Mr. Lyon and whomever else he has brought with him tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you everybody for your time this evening as we kind of delve into an idea that did germinate from the 9/11 ceremony that the junior ROTC program puts on at the waterfront every September 11th to commemorate that day. Just as a disclaimer, I do work for the Bangor School Department. However, this is not endorsed by the Bangor School Department. I don't think my boss knows I'm here, so just saying that.
Well, it's out there now, Daryl.
Yeah, I know, it's out there now.
Out there now.
So that being said, I am the president of the Maine Infantry Foundation. The Maine Infantry Foundation was organized in 2009 with the intent of preserving our rich infantry history of the state of Maine and recognizing the sacrifices of our service members. I have brought with me several guys that I had to pay outside to come with me and be my friends tonight. But if you guys would just introduce yourselves real quick, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about the ink on that check. My name is Jim Monk, and I'm on the board of the Maine Infantry Foundation and been active with that. I'm an attorney here in town, and this is a project that's been near and dear to us as we've discussed it for some time. So thank you for having this here tonight.
I'm Jim Burkhardt. I'm the current master of St. Andrew's Lodge, number 83 in Bangor.
Good evening, my name is Alan Cummo, and my interest is quite personal. I've been a longtime friend of Daryl and believe in this monument project.
I'm Dusty Fisher. I'm a member of the Infantry Foundation Board, and I'm also a member of the Marine Corps League, and we have participated on the waterfront ever since you started doing it.
Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate it. So if we talk about, if you guys can go with me and rewind the clock a little bit. I don't want you to remember the moment of September 11th. That's not the image I want to go with today. What I want to go with is if you were, I want to go with the feelings that you had on the 12th of September, the day after September 11th. And just reflect quickly on what those feelings were. Fear, unknowing, and just a lot of anxiety about the future. What was it going to look like? Because we didn't know. And those events that happened on that day triggered other events, the anthrax attacks that happened in October and after that, the subsequent invasion of Iraq, or Afghanistan first and then Iraq, and essentially a 20-year war that lasted until just recently when we pulled out of Afghanistan and Iraq. And what always, as we've had discussions about that time, those 20 years, is the resiliency of the city of Bangor and its leadership and its community members during that time, and how we responded to that anxiety and that unknowing and that fear. And quite frankly, I'm very proud of the way that the city responded to that in all ways. we saw a resurgence of the troop greeters. So I was, I'm a 30-year retired Army veteran. And there's two things that when you talk to somebody and you tell them you're from Bangor, Maine, the first thing is, Stephen King. I don't know Stephen, but I've been by his house. And the other thing is the Maine troop greeters. Like they remember our troop greeters and everything that what Dusty did. We say 1 million soldiers and service members who have come through our airport, and that's how they remember our city. And I think that is a growth of the resiliency that our city showed. And and then you just start calculating the number of send-off ceremonies and the number of welcome home ceremonies and the number of parades that we had and the red, white, and blue bunting hanging at Cameron Stadium. And just this unbelievable civility that came around that we had after that time where we really came together as a community. We saw our community leaders kind of step up to the plate and help us get to a level of assurance that we could continue on. And it took all of us, and the city was very good at it. So when I talk to my students at Bangor High, so certainly we talk about the day, right? We talk about all of the things that happened, but one of the things that I always reflect back on is the absolute amazing resiliency that our city had after that time. And I try to reflect on it. I mean, the kids weren't even born when this happened. So the events themselves were, there's just images on the screen, but the true understanding of why they do that ceremony on 9/11 really hits home when they reflect on how much the community was affected. So that being said, we began the design of putting together a monument, not a memorial necessarily, but certainly a monument to the resiliency of our city in those 20 years after those horrific attacks on September 11th. And this is the design of that monument. So what we're asking tonight from the Government Operations Committee is permission to continue to talk to the city in a formal way about the aspects of this design and how we might engineer it to build it on that site. There's Councilor Pelletier has a picture of the angle, if you don't know where I'm at downtown, thank you, Nick, that we would like to put the monument. Now, there are a couple criteria that we came up with. We know where that is an active part. The city uses that area quite a bit for festivals and different events that happen down in that part of the city. It's a beautiful spot of land. So one of the criteria was, one, it doesn't take up the whole space. It takes up a respectable amount of space, but not the whole space. Other criteria was that it never blocks the view of the river. We never want to block the view, even though we don't necessarily want to look at Brewer. Sorry, Tracy. That was that Trace. We oriented it such that we lost. Did we lost? It's away, but yeah.
Who wrote his script?
We do have to put that way. Let me try to recover from that. So then it would be oriented that way. It wouldn't obscure the vision of the river. It certainly wouldn't be, and we wanted to stay away from, if you do research on 9/11 memorials, you'll see that there's twisted metal from the World Trade Center, which is very functional. And there's monoliths of the World Trade Center where there's some sort of remembrance to the firefighters and the police officers who were part of that response. But we wanted to kind of get it to something that was a little more reflective and a little more an opportunity to sit and contemplate the events that happened after that. So as you look at this, this is designed by an artist who lives in Sullivan, Maine. And we got to talking to Fid, and Fid is he owned a company called Luniform, and Luniform designs, what's the best way to describe it? Like, they're the big vases that you would see in front of the Bellagio, those kinds of things, and that's what he designs. And this company is in Sullivan, Maine. So we talked to Fid, and Fid loved our idea, and he began to put together the concept of what this would look like. So, to that orientation of that picture, you would see that this small dot would represent the flagpole. There's a pre-existing flagpole that was put there by the Cole family, when it was put there by the Cole family. So the flag flies here and this would be downriver. These, so if we build it off these I-beams. These would be I-beams that would form this 6-panel fan from the pivot point here. The fan would be, these small, well, not small, but they'd be I-beams like a railroad track, but lighter than that. And then we would fill in between the I-beams, landscaping fabric and then landscaping stone over that. And then from here, we would have 7 cast benches, and the benches would be for two people to sit on each one of these benches. It would face these 5 spheres. Each one of the spheres we would project would represent one of those aspects of the response of the city to the 9/11 events and the subsequent wars. So you might envision a sphere dedicated to the troop greeters, where on the front of the sphere, you would see an explanation of the troop greeters and maybe their logo and that kind of feel to it. There might be a sphere that's dedicated to the 101st Air Refueling Wing, so the Maniacs. They were on site over New York City the day of the attack and essentially never left the air for 20 years. They were on call. Gold Star Mothers. Well, this one I thought we might reserve just for the city itself. So the city itself would have an opportunity to put some language there. And then maybe a sphere for Gold Star Mothers, and then certainly a sphere for the police and fire. Now, those are just suggestions. There's absolutely just suggestions. They're not necessarily the way that we would do it.
Can I snag your just
Yeah, King Carol,
just
see it?
this way now, because with the good news of her being online is
She's
think we
listening.
need to
She knows
come
all my
this
Who
way. She heard and saw you.
Oh,
I think
That's not-
that's what. she-
Okay, got it,
I think that's,
Is that close enough?
got it.
if it's her, then everybody else at home has the same problem.
yeah, so those would be those 5 spheres, and then as you're sitting, you see the spheres. The spheres are a little bit smaller, and then these larger globes would represent the sun, the moon, and the earth, which is a reference to time. We have it designed so the earth actually rotates, so it would be on a series of yeah, that would actually, like, if you wouldn't like to be down there spinning it like the old walker wheel there, but you can get down there and you can rotate it and it'd be like the earth. And then at the end is the obelisk, and then the obelisk itself is where the explanation of the entire project could be outlined, probably some donors' names and things like that. So you sit on here and you're sitting with your grandson, your granddaughter, and you're explaining to them everything that happened to the city after 9/11. And the view is these small spheres to the globe, to the obelisk, to the flag, to the river. And it would all just be one flow outward. And that would be the design of the Hope Monument.
I have a question. It references a design attached in here and it's not in our packet. Is there an actual like rendering of what it would look like?
We have,
Aside from like, I know this is the 3D version, but like you have that flag photo, but do you have anything like that? I'm just curious.
we do have a renderings that that our architect used.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it was too big. Like when he superimposed it on the site, it makes it look like it totally dominates
Okay,
the space. So Gretchen, I thought that
Gotcha.
maybe if I put that in there, then it looked like it was like giant, so.
And I'll just hop in to say, for example, these benches would be smaller, a somewhat different design, because we scaled it into the space.
Yeah.
So there's, small tweaks, similar concept, but like.
I think having like the visual as though you're walking through the park. I don't know what elevations that's called.
Yeah, that can be done.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
The architect turned out to be kind of expensive, so we turned that off until we didn't want to put the cart before the horse too much before we started really spending significant amount of money, but we can actually make those renderings available. Absolutely.
Questions or comments from counselors? Counselor Trimble?
I like the concept a lot. Yeah, I've just a couple of minor concerns. One, when you look at the criteria, the second one being that about the space is used for community events, it just seems to me that this would really shut that whole area off from community events. It seems like it's kind of a, you know, more memorial where people wouldn't wanna go into that space, you know, it's kind of a reverence in that space, I would think, so, I'd have to see how big it is. I think your comment about how it fits in an area, I think also, I think this probably should go through the cultural commission and get some feedback from them, as well as maybe the DEI committee, some other groups. And also some of your concepts here seemed, I liked about the three there, the sun, the moon, the earth, so, and with the location, I mean, if we decide that's the best spot for, on the Penobscot, it seems like maybe we should even include the Penobscot Nation in some discussion about this, so that's all.
Counselor Dean?
The materials being used, similar to the vases you described at the Bellagio, is it cement, is it wood, or what? What cement, it's all cement.
Cement, these would all be cement cast, though we've made them smaller and hollow. So they wouldn't be as heavy, because there is concern as to what's underneath the ground at that spot. So we think it's just fill. So that's partly we'd like to talk to the city engineer and work out what's underneath there. Because these would be heavy. These would be heavy. This would all be cement, but it's not like cement. It's like Bellagio cement, right? It's like really polished and well done. And the spheres we made smaller so they're lighter, and the globes we made smaller so they're lighter. And the obelisk is heavy though. That's,
Yeah.
and that we might do out of granite.
And one of just in following on that, Fid Lawless through at Luniform has developed a series of techniques and whatnot. He cast them in some colors and patinas on them, but they're designed to last for years and years and years out of doors. So they don't have issues with cracking and whatnot, because these are all over the world and he's been doing it for the better part of 20 years. So that's why we thought that material would work, and it's the main product.
Any other comments from counselors? Counselor Porter?
So how tall is the central?
But did we say 3D?
We're not sure, 3 or 4 feet, depending on what we come together with. I use the smaller model because the other one doesn't have a pin, and if I put it, it would fall off. So sometimes we have simple explanations, but the 4 foot base is a fair amount heavier, so the question becomes, what can the ground bear? And so that's one of the reasons we're asking to be able to talk to the city is, you have people who know what's there and how to do it.
So how far out from there to the benches?
11 feet. Is it 11 feet from here to here? That point that.
That's 11 feet?
Yeah.
I think it's 20. This does not consume that whole area in thinking of your.
Yeah, and that's where I was going.
Right.
It doesn't seem to be, that's like 2 basketball hoops.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it can be sized. It certainly can be sized. I mean, if we get to a point where we do the overlay and it looks like it's just over dominating that spot, I think we can, it doesn't have to be that length at all. So we can definitely work. But we haven't got, but like, we started to work with the architect. And as I said, he was resizing it as we work, but we do have an architect that is helpful and we can resize it.
So it sounds like this meeting is really just to see if we, as a body, are interested in moving forward, not necessarily with, this is not the final design. Because we wouldn't be approving that, because I think it sounds like everyone would want to see a couple angles and
Yes.
work that
absolutely.
out, but just to move forward with discussing with the city if it's feasible and all that.
Authorizing staff to continue to work with Mr. Lyon and his group on concept. And as we've talked about and you've alluded to, a couple of process in the meantime, coming back with updated designs and concepts, as well as perhaps including the cultural commission. But again, as you said, authorizing tonight for staff to continue to work with them.
Do you need a full motion on that, or is it,
I believe so. I'm gonna look around the room and
okay,
defer to those that.
I would entertain a motion.
I move that, we allow this project to proceed through the city. And further discussions to come back to us with different renderings and whatever.
Second,
Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, that motion has passage.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you, gentlemen. Am I staying here?
Yeah, I think you are. The next item is an ordinance amending the event permit policy and related ordinance.
Not in there. Keeps going on.
thanks for the weather. It's good. There you go.
I will defer to
Yeah.
city solicitor.
So my presentation is a lot less exciting than that one. I don't have any artwork. But we are bringing forward, the legal department in conjunction with, Tracy and Parks and Rec. We're bringing forward a few ordinance amendments, to provide an enforcement mechanism for the event permit policy. The ordinance amendments also, tweak some of the definitions of items not permitted in public parks. Adding hunting knives and sharp objects like needles and knives, but leaving an exception for like plastic cutlery, butter knives, that kind of thing, as well as necessary equipment. And then the policy itself is just barely being altered just to tighten up the definition of event and the times when a permit would not be required for an event. Questions?
Comments or questions on this? My only question is, this wouldn't interfere with like, I know a lot of families like to set up a birthday party or.
Right, yeah, so that would be one of the things that we would allow them to do without a permit.
Okay. All right.
It's pretty straightforward.
I have a question. Tagging along, Councilor Schaefer's question, I see that the for family events like birthday parties, graduation pictures, if the family event is over 30, so is it limited to a family event of being the number of 30? Did I read that? And what if the family event is over? Do they get a permit or what variation of that would there be?
Yeah, so if it is over 30, then we would require a permit just because of concerns about interfering with normal use of the park or the public property. So then they would apply for a permit and that.
Just apply for a permit.
Thank you. Any comments or any further comments or questions? Assuming we need a motion on this, this is an ordinance, so I would
There's
entertain.
an ordinance and an order to amend the policy.
Okay, so two motions.
Or you could do one that would incorporate both, it's
I'll
fine.
take one minute as well.
Okay, so let's see. I would move that we amend the ordinance as described,
Okay,
and then what was the second?
Amend and amend the
And the
policy.
okay, amend the ordinance and the policy.
motion. Seeing no comments, that has passage. That is the last agenda item on the agenda for GovOps, and so we are adjourned. Stay tuned for finance.
Finance.